Hi, everybody. My name is Jacob Feldman. I am a Chief Technology Officer of Open Rules, and Open Rules is a well-known business rules and decision management systems available as open source product and used by different large and small companies worldwide for last 16 years. But today I want to devote more attention to real world development of complex decision services. And I want to stress the word complex because it's frequently when we do presentation on conferences, we show one, two ideas and a little demo or pilot. We never go to ambitious uh, tasks like I put it in front of myself and in front of my audience. I really want to build not just something little, but talk about development of real world maintainable decision services. And my second ambitious idea is, can all work be done by business analysts, subject matter experts without help of programmers. And I want to prove today that we can do it today in next 40 minutes. And we will try to develop a library of working decision models and decision services, deploy them on cloud, orchestrate several models together, and consider the results at the end of the session. So here's my implementation plan. I selected a well-known, even notorious decision model described as a main example in the DMN standard, and it deals with loan origination domain. So today we will try to develop a library of small reusable decision models, not large one monolithic decision model, but many models, and then we will construct larger models like we usually construct Legos from smaller Lego boxes. And this is idea will go through the entire presentation, Lego idea. We will test each model separately, and then we will deploy these models as decision services. And in this case, today we will use Amazon Cloud. And at the end, we will show that we can also orchestrate a new decision services in using already existing services. And this orchestration logic also is a business logic. And I will show how to do it. Okay, so let's start. First of all, what we're doing in general, we usually developed decision-making application. And inside this application, we have business logic distributed between databases, Java, Python, and other code. And people not satisfied with this. They want to remove this logic from here and externalize this logic in form of maintainable decision models and services. And then when we have such library of decision models and services, we would like our decision-making application send data to the proper services and receive back very quickly ready-to-go decisions. And so this is very top-level schema, and we will open this on the next slide. But how subject matter experts or business analysts can build such libraries? And I would say we need two steps. First, step number one is creating and testing business decision models. We will do this work in Excel, mainly in Excel and a file manager, no fancy graphical tools here, because I really want to keep it as simple as possible. So, and then second step is deploy develop decision models and tested model as decision services, and we can deploy them on cloud or on premise, and then orchestrate new decision services. This is our plan. And here is a larger picture. So we want to develop business decision models and then deploy them as operational decision services. When I'm talking about decision decision models, we want to create library of domain-specific models. In this case, it would be loan origination decision models. And the main component of this library is a so-called knowledge or rules repository. And when we build this repository, we're trying to create a common glossary surrounded by multiple decision models for different business goals. And we will do today this exercise using open rules and Excel as our main rules management mechanism. But when we use Excel, it's just the best known table editor. We never use Excel formulas, and we don't need Excel in runtime. It's just a nice, commonly known table editor. And pay attention, so the whole job would be done by business analysts. And when business analyst in Excel creates different models, then the same person can create tests inside Excel, can test these models. And when business analyst, he or she feels that this model is ready to go, it's just with one click, it can deploy model on selected destination on cloud or on premise. And it would be, models will become available to applications, to decision-making application in form of decision microservices. Okay, let's continue. And by the way, if you want to ask any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions, interrupt me whenever you feel comfortable. Or we can get all questions, we can save all questions at the end of the presentation. It's up to you. Okay, so this is our DMN loan origination example. And it describes quite typical loan origination business process that consists of two processes, pre-bureau processing and post-bureau processing. So basically, an applicant filled out an application, and the first step is to collect this application data and make decision before we go to credit bureau. We already can analyze this application and we can decide on a so-called bureau strategy. Do we have to go to credit bureau, or we can just maybe decline right away based on some characteristic of this applicant and his or her applications. So if after this decision bureau strategy is declined, so we will just decline the entire application. Or if we decide, no, you have to go to bureau, so we will collect bureau data, and then, for example, such data is credit score. And when we use this credit score, we can decide on in more details how to deal with this application. And we call this decide routing. And routing, it means where to route this application. If our new analysis with known credit data is declined, we will again decline, or maybe we will accept. So it could be accepted, or maybe it could be referred to further analysis. So this is a general context of this example. And we can define, look how this, we can look at the so-called decision requirements diagram, which I borrowed from DMN standard. It can scare everybody when you can see so many boxes, so many definitions, especially all these complicated errors. But in reality, this schema, this diagram represents our bureau strategy here and all related boxes, goals, sub-goals for this to achieve this strategy. And also it represents routing. And you can see some of these sub-goals are common for all of them, but in general, this diagram is really messy. It's difficult to comprehend, and this is not very complex example. In real life, it's much more sophisticated thing. So my personal experience shows that developing diagrams from on the high level is useful, but when you go deeper, it's very difficult. Why not to ask our tool we use, such as Open Rules Decision Manager or any other tools, to create these diagrams automatically? And so we apply, usually our customers apply so-called goal-oriented decision modeling approach described in this Amazon book. And the idea is very simple. You specify high-level goals, and this goal has probably several sub-goals. for each of them, you define their own business logic in form of decision model, and usually it's just set of business rules. And you let these sub goals can have more smaller sub goals, but this goal-oriented approach drives our decision model development. And when we create decision models for all goals and sub goals, then the proper rule engine or decision manager can automatically figure out all relationships and build this nice diagram, but it could be probably simpler and nicer without forcing human to create all this dependency, and probably manually it can be really difficult. And I will show you how we will generate them automatically. Okay, so let's proceed. And we already said two things: that to define loan origination results, accept, decline, or refer, we need to solve, this is our top level goal. But to achieve this goal, we have two sub goals: bureau strategy and routing. So this would be called, we will call this pre-bureau processing, and this is post-bureau processing. And these goals and sub goals can have sub goals such as affordability, for example, here. That's affordability for pre-bureau. This is affordability for post-bureau, and they slightly different because they use different logic to calculate the same goal, affordability. And similarly, sub-goal risk category, while it's still risk category, but it has different business logic for pre-bureau processing and for post-bureau processing. And then we can have even a very simple decision model for application risk score, and it's the same for both pre and post processing. And that's why I want to start with implementation of very simple decision model, what we will call application risk score. And this is a risk score. So if you look on this tree, what we created here, I select this application risk score, and DMN already gave us all necessary decision tables. So all rules presented in DMN in form of different decision tables, and I want to show you how we will use them. By the way, as I said before, we will use only Excel and File Manager, and we will actually create these models. In this case, I will put in file rules XLS only one table, and this is decision table, and majority of tables defined in open rules by keyword in the top left corner. In this case, you can see this keyword decision table multi-hit. This is the name of this table, and multi-hit tells you that all satisfied rules inside these tables should be executed in top-down order. So let's look on the logic, because you can see here keyword if, and then conclusion. So it means we have three conditions related to age, marital status, and employment status of applicant. And based on different combination of these parameters, we can calculate or accumulate application risk score. The first rule unconditionally will initialize application risk score with 0. Then if, for example, based on person age, if, for example, this person is 30 years old, only this rule would be satisfied, age between 26 and 35, and 40 would be added to application risk score. This is an add operator plus 40 to previous. But then it will check marital status, and if this applicant is single, 25 would be added, or otherwise it would be 45. And then based on employment status, this score could be incremented with the proper numbers. So quite simple table, but this is a so-called multi-hit table. And what else do we need to execute this decision model? We need to create, so this is glossary, the most important component, common, that serves as a glue for all decision models in our future library. So our initial glossary can be created with these 4 columns. And if the first column, we will just take, all these decision variables, and we will copy paste them in first column, and we can tell, oh, age, marital status, and employment status, they belongs to business concept applicant. I'm not talking about Java objects or database tables, just business concept applicant, and it's quite natural. And the application risk score, probably it's specific not to applicant, but to particular applications this applicant created. So we have two business concepts initially here. Probably down on the road, we will add more, what kind of product, what kind of loan this application contains, what the bureau data information we have, and many more. So this is initial state of our glossary. And in row number 3, this is a technical name for this decision glossary for future testing and integration with IT system. And this is a type of these variables. For example, age is integer, marital status probably string, and application risk score is also integer. It could be also double, boolean, and all dates and all other types. I did not put here more important columns such as description or used as and many other columns available in glossary, because as I said, glossary probably one of the most important concepts when you do decision modeling. So this is our decision model. That's it. And it has two files, rules and the glossary. Now I want to test this model. So usually the same people who create decision rules have to create their own test. And this is a test cases. It's new tables also created in Excel. You can see in left corner, it has a type of data, because we will put here some test applicants, type applicant, like it's defined in our glossary. And we will call this applicants array of applicants, so S at the end. And we will put here names of this different applicants, and this is, we have 3 test applicants here with different age, marital status, employment status. Our application, we don't know yet. We want to figure out application risk score, but we will put zeros right here. And now we can define our test cases. And because in reality, these test cases will grow as we add more rules. So it's better to put test cases, let's say in this way. In test 1, we will use first element of this array and first element of this array, and action expect tells us that's the result what we expect. 138 should be, when we execute first test, should be our application risk score. And now I just ready, when I defined rules, a glossary and test cases, I'm ready to execute this table. And I will switch for a second to actual demo. And this actual demo I can find in a regular file manager. And when I go to file manager, you can see here, my entire library is here. I do have rules repository. It's already, because I created this, of course, before this presentation, it's already here for affordability, bureau strategy, routing, and I created even common glossary here. And right now I want us to look on application risk score, and it has one standard BAT file, or on Mac or Unix, just test. And when you click on this file, I just double click on this. Now it's building and executing my model. Let's see. So it started Open Rules project. And so let's see, now it's running test. First test, second test, it executed all 3 tests successfully. And if you look on this, not very friendly, nothing fancy here, but regular protocol, it shows you that it executed decision service application risk score, and it executed rule number 1, rule number 6, and rule number 9 from our decision table, and it actually highlights what decision variables were changed. So first it was 0, then 48, then 63, and that was for test number 3. For test number 1, of course, it was what we expected. If there are mismatches between expected and actual results, they all will be presented here. But as I said, it's not very friendly. You can see look on the same thing in a more friendly report. If I click on this report, you will see it's automatically generated. It was generated right now, and you can see in nice HTML format, it shows only executed rules. It tells you name of the executed decision table, number of rule, and it shows you text of this rule. And you can see here that it executed this 45 plus 45, and it highlights final values of our variables. And more than that, if you, for example, click here, you want to see it will open Excel. And so it will open Excel, and you will see the same rules what implemented right here in Excel. So hopefully you got this idea that it's just without any requirements, without complex installation, you got working application. So let's continue back to our demo, and you've seen this execution, and you've seen this explanation reports, and now we can continue to develop our rules repository or our library. So we will have one big folder called the rules repository, and for each decision model we will create special subfolder like affordability, risk category, and many more. But what is very important in the folder common, I want to keep our common glossary. This is a very important decision when glossary is common for the entire model, because it's kind of a glue to keep the entire library together. And also it gives business people ability to talk to each other, what exact definition of different terms, where they used, how they affect different pieces of logic. So we can look on this repository from file manager perspective. You just seen it over there, but I copied them to this slide. And this is my common folder where I keep glossary. And this glossary is here. And for example, application risk score here. This is my file rules, where you've seen rules, and tests. You've seen tests, they in file test. So it's very convenient to keep them together. But there is some more very important construct called environment table. We usually keep it in a file called decision model, because it describes, environment table describes the structure of each decision table, of each decision model. And for example, if the first, it has include, and this include tells that this decision model includes file rules. Maybe you want to have 5 different rules, and maybe they could distribute it between different folders like in real life. But still, you can use here references, and you also want to refer here to this common file, to this decision model that located in folder common. So what we do here, the only convention, what you probably already familiar with, what you use in regular file manager, we have to go one level up, because we here, one level up, we will go then one level down to common. And when we inside common, we want to refer to the file decision model XLS. And this file has its own table environment that includes glossary XLS. You can see that's how we can link together different files and folders. And this is such simple mechanism, actually works perfectly for huge repositories. We have customers when they have, for example, one of our customers has rules for 80 different countries, a lot of them common. Different countries are integrated in groups, and they all have redistributed rules between different folders, subfolders with different authorization access authorization, security access, version control, but commonly available mechanism from file manager is that's what our customers really like. And hopefully you understand this include. I'm going to use it a lot. That's the only technical trick we use to integrate this. Let's continue. So now, if we already covered application risk score, now I want to cover risk category. And risk category, you can see common glossary here. It's different for pre-bureau and for post-bureau. So we will need to develop probably two decision models. For pre-bureau, DMN gives us this table, and this table defines risk category based on is this customer existing or new customer, and also based on application risk scores that we already calculated in the previous decision model, right? So risk category should refer to application risk score model, and that's how it would be calculated for pre-bureau processing. But for post-bureau processing, when credit score already known, we can calculate risk category according to DMN a little bit differently. So it's more complicated logic that takes into consideration different combinations of application score and credit score. So in this case, we still want to use risk category because it's the same concept used by higher level decision models. And if we use different names, we have to repeat all other rules again and again, but we don't want to do it because risk category, it's a risk category. I don't want to write risk category pre-bureau, but I can create two different models. One of them would be risk category pre-bureau and one risk category post-bureau. Our decision model risk category pre-bureau, we will create separate folder in our with this name in our rules repository, and we will use these rules inside file rules XLS. We will need to extend our previously defined glossary with this concept of existing customer, and we have to add variable category to application, and our environment table will include these rules and also will refer to previously defined application risk score. Similarly, risk category for post-bureau determines the goal risk category for post-bureau using this table, and environment table absolutely the same because they refer to the same risk category. Okay, of course, now we have to extend our glossary because we got new concept here, risk score, and it belongs to new business concept, bureau data, we will call it. And we will create these two different models, and we will remember that we cannot use these models at the same context, everybody, because otherwise we would not know how this risk score category was calculated. Okay, so now this is our picture. This was my rule repository, and in this rules repository, this is our previously defined risk credit score, and now I define a risk credit score pre-bureau. It has this pre-bureau environment table that refers to the same application risk score, and through risk score we go here and it will refer to common and we will reach glossary. Similarly, this environment table will go to the same decision model file that will again refer us to glossary. All these connections, I hope they're quite intuitive. I just can tell you our customers with experience in last 15 years certainly like this simplicity. While maybe it looks still a little bit technical, but that's at least not programming. It's more like configuration tools. Does it look for you as a Lego boxes? Hopefully they do. Okay, so now it's turn to create more decision models, and we go to this quite complex concept of affordability. That's quite interesting, and I will show you what's happening here. If you open DMN, it tells you affordability can be defined in by this decision table. This is affordability. It could be true or false. And it tells if required monthly installment, whatever it means, less than disposable income multiplied by credit contingency factor, then it's true. Otherwise, it's false. But it already introduced several new concepts, required monthly income, this and this, and how they define. And DMN tells you that's how they define. Disposable income defined by this table. And this is a formula. You have to take monthly income and subtract from this monthly repayments plus monthly expenses. Hopefully, it's quite intuitive. DMN is very good in presenting complex things in a very simple way, but still we do have this dependency. How about this required monthly installment? DMN gives us this table, and it tells, okay, this defined here, it depends on product type, new concept, what wasn't defined before. And if product type is a special loan, you calculate required monthly installment using this formula, PMT plus 25 or PMT plus 20. What is PMT? So people in loan business know that PMT can be calculated using this formula. So that's another rule. And you can see it keeps going. Do we miss something? Yes, there is still credit contingency factor, and DMN defines it inside this table. And what is interesting here, it's using this risk category. Risk category, what we already defined in our risk category decision model. One for pre-processing, one for post-processing. Now I'm just looking, okay, we need two decision models because risk category is different. One for affordability pre-bureau and one affordability post-bureau. But they will share all these rules. Doesn't matter how you calculate this credit category. The rules the same. But I also want to make a very important point here. If I try to define all these dependencies with all these errors, that's how we can end up with very complicated decision requirements diagram. So we will be in trouble if we do it manually, because any changes here and could be redesign the entire relationships. So we rather define our tables, and as we can define these errors, engine should be able to define it automatically for us. And that's what we will expect from any rule engine. And now I can define model, common model, and I will just create folder here, and I will put all our rules, what from previous slide, right here in this file. And then I can create affordability pre-bureau, affordability post-bureau, and inside they don't have files rules. They will refer to common file rules here, and you can see how it's done. Include risk, include affordability rules. That's how it refers to these rules. But when they refer inside these rules to risk category, it will use different rules. Post-bureau will use risk category post-bureau, and pre-bureau will use risk category pre-bureau. You can see all these links. So all these links, they in this moment, they kind of imaginary, they in our mind. We don't force people to draw all these errors. Engine will do it itself. But if, as I said, if human can do it, engine can do it too. Okay, that's a little bit more complex. But now, when we define all these decision models, we're ready to implement one big decision model, what we call bureau strategy. And bureau strategy is, hopefully you're not tired yet, but I said it's quite ambitious idea to implement everything. So we'll try. Go to bureau strategy. I go again, and DMN tells me bureau strategy can be calculated using this decision table. And it has two conditions and one action. And it tells me, oh, something new, eligibility. I don't know what does it mean yet, but it's okay. We will figure out later. If eligibility ineligible, we should decline, bureau strategy decline. And if eligible, we should consider something new, bureau call type. Whatever it means, it could be one of full or mini or none. and it will have different strategy. On high level, it's very simple, but now it's not clear what is this eligibility. Let's look on eligibility. DMN gives us this decision table for eligibility. And it's interesting, the eligibility depends on both risk category and affordability and also an applicant age. And this is how it's defined, its logic. But you can see everything everything is separated. Each piece of logic goes according to the name, to the right table, to the right file in XLS, and eligibility is defined here. And then bureau type, DMN gives us this definition of bureau type, and bureau type also depends on risk category. But we already not worry about these arrows, and because we rely on engine, and we can just define only environment table for bureau strategy, and we will tell use these rules, these 3 rules we put in this file rules XLS, and also use affordability pre-bureau, because bureau strategy is pre-bureau processing. And when I go to so this is for bureau strategy, and routing will probably use post-bureau. But that's how we put everything together. And now pre-bureau here, and we're done. And when we can test this bureau strategy decision model, but when I click button, engine automatically generates for me this DRD, or decision requirement diagram, what you've seen initially. And I can tell you, if you try to create this manually, this table, you will be in trouble even for such simple things. It's very easy to make mistakes because it's quite complicated relationship. You can see it goes here, and eligibility depends on this, and this is internal relationship. They not simple at all. And also it's not clear in what order should we calculate these rules. And usually it's a good statement in decision modeling in general that customer should not worry about order of execution. It should be a responsibility of rule engine. That's why good rule engine usually automatically calculates execution path without bothering human. Humans just modify business logic inside their decision tables, and all other things belong to rule engine. Okay, hopefully that clarifies things. And when I click test, similarly like we did initially on demo, you can trust me, I would not go to file manager. It will produce these results. You can see these results much more complicated. First it calculates application risk score, executing different rules than we've seen before. Then it calculates PMT using this formula, and it shows you actual calculation. It calculates required monthly installment, disposable income, etc., etc. You got affordability, eligibility, and this is so you can just follow the logic of execution logic by rule engine, and at the end of this execution, rule engine will figure out, so for this particular test, our bureau strategy is it used to be decline and now it's through. That's the result with all explanations, because in this right column, you can see all decision variables as they were defined in the moment of execution of every particular rules. That's quite convenient. So we define bureau strategy. It's time to define routing. And when I go to routing, it's just very similar to bureau strategy. Just DMN gives us this table for defining routing, and you can see routing using credit score from bureau data. And when we define this table, we can just use environment table, refer to affordability, but with post-bureau, not with pre-bureau as we used for bureau strategy. Okay, and now I can automatically generate DRD and execution path for my model routing, and we got 2 decision models, and you can see how all these models connected inside rule repository. Hopefully, it gives you the entire picture of how to develop libraries, but that's not everything. So we can execute routing, and now let's go back to our glossary. While we created our glossary, we accumulated all information from different tables. Applicant became much larger. Application now contains an affordability, eligibility, and bureau strategy, and even loan origination result, what we still did not calculate. And it has requested a loan product. It has information from bureau data about credit score. So, but everything comes together. We also added here possible domain or possible values for different variables. It's also very important. And when glossary is defined, that's what allowed us to execute all small and larger decision models. And finally, now I want to get this my top level decision. I want to define the loan origination result as accept, decline, or refer, and I cannot use anymore my include statements in environment because it wants to, this result has to use both bureau strategy and routing. So I'm stuck, but I can deploy this service as decision service, and then I would not care what is inside. I care only about results. So let's deploy bureau strategy and routing as two large separate loosely coupled services as decision services on cloud. And I will use by default, this is a symbol for AWS Lambda function. That's one of the target cloud environment. And in general, OpenRules has a push button mechanism for deployment. When you develop, business analysts develop their business decision models using mainly Excel and test them. And when they feel comfortable, they click button deploy. And this button allows you to deploy as a regular Java program, or you can use AWS Lambda, or you can use any RESTful services. And even if you're familiar with the word Docker, that's one of the most popular destination. Docker image automatically generated. You don't have to know about this. You just click button, and you will tell your programmers that you're ready to use the application is ready to use the latest version deployed as your programmers want. But very important point here that nobody modifies this but you. When you make, as a business analyst, as a subject matter expert, if you decide to make changes here, when you click deploy, then new version will become available for decision-making application. Okay, and now, as I said, with how this one-click deployment done, you basically go like previously you called the test BAT file. Now we have two standard files common for all decision models. You click deploy Lambda, and you don't have to know anything about Lambda, just nice word, AWS Lambda. And when you click at the end, you will see it will create, it will execute, it would take about 30 seconds or 1 minute, and it will execute everything and will deploy your decision model as a Lambda service known under the name Bureau Strategy, and this is invocation URL. Whatever it means, it's just normal URL like you use in any browser. And you got these two invocation URLs for Bureau Strategy and for routing. You can test them remotely using your local tests. Now the most interesting part, how to orchestrate these two services, Bureau Strategy and routing, to call final loan origination result. Loan origination result depends on Bureau Strategy and routing, and this is the logic what DMN provides. And here, our orchestration logic is actually business logic. When people tell you that you have to go to server, or you need a special business process management engine, or maybe some programming in Java, I would never recommend you to do it. because it's a business logic. And this business logic is quite interesting here. This is a logic. First, you want to execute, you're reading this, if first unconditionally execute bureau strategy service. This service will set up a bureau strategy. If this bureau strategy is declined, so decline result, don't do anything else. If it's not declined, then execute routing service. And if routing service decline or if you accept, set the proper result here. So this is a typical decision table, and it's quite interesting. And open rules in particular has a special action called action executes. It can execute internal decision tables, or it can execute external decision services. But if the external, you have to define these services in special table. We call this decision service. And in this case, I would say, okay, bureau strategy service, I use here just name, and I will use it as a service type. That's a REST web interface, and here generated, remember this invocation URL, I can put it here. There are routing service, I will put generated here. So I don't have to know about this. I don't talk about roles. I don't use AWS, API gateway, and all other complex things. I'm ready to build my orchestrated decision model. So when it's done, I just click standard test execute, and I can execute it. And you can see results, what happened. First, it executed my bureau strategy service. Then secondly, it executed rule number 3 from previous table. If bureau strategy is not declined, so apparently it wasn't declined, so it executed routing service. And finally, it checks that if bureau strategy is not declined and routing is accept, then result also is accept. So our result is here is accept. Now you can take this model and deploy this model also as Java or as AWS Lambda or on Microsoft Azure, whatever your IT folks prefer. But you still in control of business logic. That's a very important point. So as a summary, so what we did, and it took us 40 minutes, and we developed a library of domain-specific models for loan origination business. And I want to stress, we did not do programming. It was a little bit tricky with these environment tables, but we don't have to become programmers. It's very, very important. And another important point that we had this orchestration decision model, it's still, I keep it, this logic here, not somewhere on server, because it's business logic. Orchestration logic is business logic as well. And who does everything? Business analysts. And the same people responsible for creation of logic, maintenance of logic, testing of logic, and just with one click, they can make this logic available in form of microservices, decision microservices available for decision-making application. So this is completes my presentation, and I would be happy to address any questions, or you always can set questions to supported open rules. And the latest release of open rules includes this, what I just described as a working workspace for loan origination. So you always can try it. Thank you, and I would be happy to take questions.